We're Tony and Chelsea Northrup, and today we're giving a live review of the A6300, the new Sony 85mm f1.4, and the 24-70 f2.8. Those are their new camera and their new G Master lenses. We'll also talk about their new flash system. We spent last week in Miami at a Sony press event shooting the hell out of this gear, so we have a really good idea of what it can and can't do. We're going to take live calls during the show, so call us in at this number, 347-989-1163, and at the end of the show, we'll start taking your calls. So he'll be calling into queue. So you can ask us questions about Sony gear or questions that entertain Chelsea.
Or just about life. I feel like I have good advice overall.
But don't ask us about Canon gear, okay? If you're
Right.
wondering how you can find out about these live broadcasts, subscribe to us on YouTube. And Justin, you have a little clip that shows them how to get notifications of it.
I do.
You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. We always put announcements up on there. We often don't plan very far in advance. So it's good to follow us, and then you can kind of find out as we decide on it.
Oh.
One sec, I'll get that in there.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
What? Why is everything crazy today?
Full disclosure, my Sony flew us down to Miami. They gave us food and beverages as well as loaned us gear. They didn't pay us directly. It's pretty standard in the press
They
world.
didn't pay us at all.
Right. Did that happen because the Atom came back on?
Yeah, exactly. So I just shut it off because I have the audio routed through a different.
We'll power it back on, reset the camera, and then, sorry, technical difficulties today. We had a piece of equipment die at last minute, and so we're trying to work around it. First up, I guess I should just, okay. First up, the A6300. Let's talk about that. In general, what was your experience with it, Chelsea? What did you think of it?
I liked it, actually. So overall, I liked it. There were still some things that I would change, some things that irked me a bit, but the autofocusing was a big improvement from the A6000. What is that?
Yeah, Justin, we're getting a weird sound in our headset.
Yeah, I think Skype is trying to call this connection again. I don't know why it just dropped. But
Okay.
I'll just give them a buzz in a minute.
Well, at least they're entertained. They think our technical difficulties are funny, but I'm dying inside.
Okay, so the Sony A6300 is the next generation of the Sony A6000, which is their top-end APS-C camera. It's sort of their camera that's best positioned for things like sports and action. It costs about $1,000, which is a lot for an APS-C camera. It is an incremental improvement over the A6000.
Mm-hmm.
One of the few things that they changed is the focusing system. Now, while a lot of people thought the focusing system on the A6000 was fantastic, we did not. It repeatedly failed to keep up with similarly priced DSLRs in a suite of tests that we repeated over and over and over again, including every single permutation of focusing options. And a lot of other reviewers found the same problems, as well as a lot of real-world consumers who bought the camera and hoped for more. And Sony seems to be acknowledging this by completely upgrading the focusing system on the A6300. And we spent a lot of time shooting sports with it. And my general feeling is it's vastly better now. Now, when we reviewed the A7R2, it with native lenses focused great, including for action with that 70-200 f4. It's just better than the A6300 or any other mirrorless camera we tested. So this A6300 basically has this much better focusing system on it. And I put together some of the images that we captured while shooting action here. So here you can see a sequence of pictures, and I've kind of rated these pictures whether they're in focus or out of focus. So these first three pictures are in focus as this person skis towards us. And then this fourth picture here, we can see it's out of focus. And if I zoom in here, you can see out of focus. So mostly in focus, and then suddenly out of focus. And then it kind of grabs focus again, and then it slips out a little bit out. Some of this might be it's catching onto the rope in front of him. So basically what I found in this particular sample set is most of the pictures were in focus, but the focusing scenario is about as challenging as you can possibly get with the skier coming directly towards the camera at fairly close range and at high speed. You'll see a lot of focusing tests where the subject is moving from left to right, That doesn't require the camera to refocus at all. The camera only has work to do when the subject is coming towards the camera, and the closer they are to the camera, the shallower the depth of field, the better it's working. And as we flip through the rest of these pictures, you can see he generally stays pretty well in focus. Now, notice that as I get towards the end of this run, he starts to slide off the frame. I'm trying to keep him in the right third. I'm trying to follow the rule of space with this sports photography, and he's getting closer and closer to the left of the frame here. That's because the viewfinder still has a little bit of lag. So with a DSLR, there's literally a mirror bouncing light to your eye. You're seeing things at the speed of light. But with any mirrorless camera, the little processor in it is receiving the data and then spitting it out through the viewfinder, and it adds just a tiny bit of latency, like some measure of milliseconds. One of the big improvements with the A6300 is there's not a huge blackout. So with the A6000, as you were taking pictures, you would not see the action in real time. And that made it very hard to follow a moving subject. They vastly improved this with the A6300. You now get a glimpse of the action in between your shots, much like the way a DSLR works. And they made it much easier. But you can still see at the end of the runs, I was having a hard time keeping him in the frame because I'm not seeing him, not as much, because there's so much lag that as he's moving side to side, I'm falling behind a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, you kind of have to lead what you're actually seeing, almost like you're shooting skeet. It's so for that reason.
I was anticipating where they were going because they were at least consistent, so I was kind of just shooting ahead a bit.
Yeah, once you get a little bit of practice with it, you kind of learn to anticipate it, but you'll see this throughout. Like, look at this run. You can see here, he just starts to slide off the edge of the frame. And this is my first time using the A6300, so it's something that you can get better with practice, but it would...
Right, you learn a different technique.
Yeah.
For how the gear works.
Yeah, so it makes it hard for me to recommend it over maybe a DSLR for sports specifically. But if you're a person who wants a small mirrorless camera and you're also shooting sports, before I would have said definitely don't get the A6300. If there's any sports in your mix, it's probably not the right choice. But now I feel like you can get the job done with the A6300. I would say don't get the A6000. But the A6300, it can get it done. It's still not a 7D, but it does pretty good. So you can see a lot of these shots, it's ending up missing focus on them. But again, that happens with every camera. And here we see another run. And most of these pictures are in focus. I think this is the first one where I registered it as being out of focus a little bit and then in focus. We must have done 50 of these runs, so I just picked a couple of samples. And here you can see he actually slipped completely off the frame just because the camera was lagging a little bit, and then suddenly I got him back in the frame, but the camera didn't focus fast enough. Another example of kind of lag making the composition difficult for me. You can see it missed focus a couple of times here, and then it got focus, and he's jumping in the air, but now it's kind of missing focus.
He was great.
And okay, now it nailed focus again, and now so you can see a subject like this, it's hard to keep them in the frame even without any lag because they're just moving so fast and you're using a telephoto lens. It's hard to track motion like that, but that little bit of lag makes it even more difficult. Yeah, he ate it. Look at him go. Same with this guy, like he jumps completely off the frame, and I definitely just missed the shot.
They're saying other people are reporting they get a 99% hit rate.
You don't get a 99% hit rate with anything.
Any camera.
No. So.
Well, people also have different definitions of like sharp. So,
right.
I mean,
and that's what it is.
And I'm not putting them down. I'm only saying that there's like a reviewer's interpretation of what's sharp.
Yeah. But we had the Sony engineers there with us, showing us how to use the camera, setting it up, making sure we were using it in an ideal way. And we were using gear that had been tested by them. So it was under ideal conditions. We had the Sony people there.
I know, but they're saying that it's user error, that it's you.
Yeah, but you remember we were at the press conference with 40 other people from the press,
we were all
and everybody
saying the same thing.
Raised their hand. They're like, we kind of had some problems with the focusing.
Yeah.
It was pretty much unanimous among the members of the press, at least. But
well,
I remember
maybe they think there are 40 professionals flown out to a Sony event that don't know what they're doing.
Yeah. I remember with the A6000 when we said we had it wasn't focusing that great for us, we had people send in their pictures of people running towards the camera. And when we looked at the pictures, we said, you got the same percentage of shots in focus that we did, which was like 15, 25%. But they thought they had 100%. It's just we
Yeah.
looked closer and we were like, oh, especially with the like f5.6 lenses, there's so much depth of field that the camera doesn't have to change focus at all. But once you get into fast moving subjects moving towards the camera with shallow depth of field, I wonder who got 99%, because not many people have used the camera. It would only be members of the press.
Oh.
And again, so the lag situation
hate.
here, you can see I didn't adjust the camera fast enough for her vertical motion because I just couldn't see it. So I'm like a little bit behind on everything.
When are we gonna let people call us?
We're going to go through our presentation, then we'll take some live calls. Let's see what else I have.
Wow, it's interesting to see how people interpret what we're saying in real time, because they're saying Sony dropped the ball, but we didn't think that.
No, the focusing system is vastly improved. It's vastly improved, and it's close to DSLR standards. Like, this is the results I would expect from shooting with a 7D or something. At
Yeah.
least it's pretty close to
So
it.
to sum it up, we thought the autofocusing system was good and we were impressed, but those were just some of the cons. Nothing's perfect, so we're making observations about what was difficult, what wasn't working as well as we had hoped. But that doesn't mean it's an overall bad review. It just means we liked it, but nothing's perfect, and here are the things that could be improved on further.
Yeah, the focusing system was great. The lag was a little bit of a problem,
Yeah.
but it was, even that is something that you can adapt to. Now, the camera has two high-speed shooting modes. It has an 8 frames per second with continuous focusing,
Yeah.
which the A6000 basically lacked. And it has 11 frames per second without continuous focusing. So for those skiers, we were shooting at 8 frames a second with the continuous focusing. But the 11 frames per second is pretty incredible at times when you don't need to change focus. Like, and these parkour shots, it's at a wide angle, so it really doesn't need to refocus. And you can see how much action you can capture with 11 frames a second. Video is 30 frames a second. So it's kind of like a little bit of a choppy video, but every image is captured at 24 megapixels. So it's really nice to be able to choose between those two modes, choose between focusing and ultra high speed. But either way, 8 frames a second is really fast and not something you get out of $1,000 DSLRs. Let's go on and talk about the 4K video. Now, this is a live stream at 1080p, so we can't demonstrate this right now, but stay tuned, subscribe, and we'll see our full broadcast where we have the sample 4K video. But I felt that it worked really, really well on the A6300, and I used it as the main camera for recording all of our videos. My main lens was the 18-105 f4. It's really versatile, and while none of this kind of like APS-C Sony zooms are especially sharp, it's just fine for 4K video, and it has image stabilization. I had a really good time using it. Now, with 4K video, you get a little bit of a crop. The text said it was about a 1.1x crop, and I didn't have an easy way to measure it. But it is you have to adjust. If you're going from stills to video, you kind of have to zoom back a little bit, and sometimes you even have to change lenses. They're using a really high-tech processing technique to pull in all the data from that 1.1x crop, so it's not skipping any pixels.
Yeah, no pixel.
Which means you get really clean images. Justin has a comparison against the GH4 that he can play.
3200.
And so this is at ISO 3200, and you can see, even at 1080p, you can see there's more noise in the GH4's video than the A6300's video. And
This is the GH4. This is the
higher ISO is
A6300
12,100
at ISO 12,800. It needs to be brightened one side.
So here we are at ISO 12,800, and clearly the A6300 is much better. Now, if you're shooting at 24 frames a second, the A6300 will capture even more data and give you even higher quality images. If you're shooting at 30 frames a second, it will drop down. The quality will reduce a little bit because it can't quite process all of that data. But based on my tests, it still looks absolutely fantastic. And for a $1,000 video camera, it's great image quality.
Yeah.
And you have to be kind of deliberate about it because it's not a great YouTuber camera. The GH4, I still think, a better YouTuber camera.
Why is that?
has a tilt screen. Well, it has a touch screen rather. The A6300 has a tilt screen, but this is a touch screen, so you can touch to focus. And while you're shooting, you can easily touch to refocus. And
I like that feature too.
you could do this with manual focusing, but you pretty much need a separate focus puller, or you're going to be shaking the camera a little bit. Changing focusing points while you're recording on the A6300, you can do that, but you're going to shake the camera and stuff, and it's a little slow. Also, with an articulating screen, a lot of YouTubers nowadays hold the camera out and will record themselves, or they'll put it on a tripod. Yes, you could use Wi-Fi and see it on your phone or something, but it's an extra setup. It might even require you to hold it a separate way, but a lot of people just want to quick and dirty
Yeah.
film themselves selfie style.
Casey Neistat does that, and I think
Constantly.
he uses some little Canon. I don't know exactly which model. I forgot.
Yeah, so it feels like a letdown that they gave it these awesome video capabilities, but then some of the usability features are kind of lacking. Now, we had a chance to talk to the engineers there, and of course, everybody's asking them questions like, why didn't you put in a touchscreen? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? Everybody wants some more things.
Yeah.
And what I came to realize is they had to prioritize what they were going to do. So they picked, their top priorities were improving the focusing and putting in 4K. And that's what they did. They didn't really touch anything else.
Yeah.
So you want more, and I bet the A6400 will have more.
Yeah, they'll come out. They keep coming out with more things. I'm amazed by how fast they come out with more products.
Right. It hasn't been that long.
Yeah, and they're really focused on improving too. When we're there, they asked us what do you like, what don't you like, what would you like to see in the future. They want to know. So
Yeah, they are listening, and they're working as hard as they can. So the fact that they didn't put a bigger battery in isn't because they don't care. It's just that would require them to re-engineer the body and develop a new battery standard. We have some clips of slow motion. Now, the A6300 will record at 120 frames a second. So if you're playing back at 30 frames a second, you can roll that clip, Justin. If you're playing back at 30 frames a second, it will give you 4x slow motion. And if you're playing back at 24 frames a second, it's 5x slow motion. And it's not 4K, it's full HD. If you're recording in 4K, you're limited to 30 frames a second, which is fine. So we had to drop this down to HD to get this slow motion. But the effect is really powerful for a filmmaker to be able to kind of mix this in. And you see it so frequently that you might not even notice it. But it adds a subtle drama to any bit of action and even B-roll. And it's super easy to use. I know a lot of people are going to ask about the image quality in comparison to the A6000. And that's not a question I'm prepared to answer definitively because Lightroom does not yet process the A6300 files. And we just haven't had a chance to go through it. But I would say at most you're going to see a 10 to 20% improvement. It's not going to be, everybody always thinks there's going to be a one-stop improvement. That's not going to be the case. If you want a one-stop improvement, you need to upgrade to an A7. You need to go full frame. Or you need to get faster glass. If you jump from an f5.6 lens to an f4 lens and you're shooting in low light, that will give you a one-stop improvement. If you are looking for lower noise, don't buy the A6300. Don't upgrade from the A6000. That's just not the reason to upgrade.
we should do a separate video about why you should upgrade or something.
Yeah, you should upgrade because you want better focusing, you want 4K video, you want slow motion video.
Yeah.
The battery hasn't changed, the usability hasn't changed. The image quality is going to be an incremental improvement, but not a huge improvement. If you want to fix that, you go full frame. So we covered most of that. The other, we always complain that there's not a good way to select a focusing point here.
Well, some people don't agree. We can say
It depends on your shooting style.
And several other people we've talked to, many people we've talked to don't like the way that you select the autofocus points. You have to kind of not go into a menu, but it's
there's an extra button push
Yeah.
and just a hair of a delay. And if you carefully compose your pictures and you shoot one picture every 20 seconds, it's not a big deal to kind of arrange that. But if you're shooting a model, you get into this rhythm of like pose, shoot, pose, shoot,
Yeah.
pose, shoot. And it happens almost that fast. But at the same time, as a pro shooter, you're shooting horizontal, you're shooting vertical, you're shooting wide, you're shooting tight because you don't know what the editor might want.
Yeah.
They might want a shot with sweeping skies in the background so that they can write text over it. So you're mixing it up for each individual pose, and each time you turn the camera, each time you zoom in or out, you need to change the focusing point. So the A6300s and its eye detection worked pretty well, and that helped a lot, especially for posing with a model. But at the same time, there are times when it just misses. And we had a backlit shooting scenario on the beach, and eye detection failed completely in that backlit scenario, which meant I had to go back to kind of the old-fashioned way of doing it, manually changing the focusing points or hoping that the camera would pick the right focusing point, which it didn't always do.
Yeah.
Anyway, sometimes you just need to be able to select a focusing point. There's not a direct way to do that, not as direct as DSLRs that have a joystick or cameras that have a touchscreen where you can just touch the touchscreen. Also, I think the big weakness in the entire Sony APS-C lineup is a lack of APS-C, fast APS-C lenses, fast and sharp, like pro-grade lenses. Sony's rolling out the G Master lenses, which we'll talk about in a second, for the full frame cameras. But if you use those on the APS-C bodies, you're going to see substantially less sharpness because you're not getting the entire image circle. And their existing APS-C lenses, there's nothing faster than f4. They don't have a single f2.8 zoom lens. And in the DSLR world, you can now get f2.8 zooms for APS-C, native APS-C, and even Sigma has f1.8 zoom lenses for APS-C. You'd have to adapt them to the Sonys, and if you do that, then suddenly you give up that good focusing. Suddenly you're going to very primitive levels of focusing.
So did we go over the things that stayed the same?
Yes.
Okay.
So again, we're going to take live calls in a second. This is the number that you'll call. I want to go over our experiences with the 85mm f1.4 G Master lens. This was definitely my favorite lens to use. It has this great big fat aperture ring that I just really enjoyed using. It focused really well. It is not image stabilized, which can be kind of important, especially with a sharp lens like this. You want to get the sharpest possible images. But I was using it on the A7R II, which has a stabilized sensor, and kind of made up for that. And overall, it was a really fantastic experience. I have some sample images to show. This is sort of abstract artistic picture that Chelsea took. But it shows it's got really high contrast between the bright sky and these sort of dark colors. We can see just a little bit of chromatic aberration, but nothing really. It looks fantastic. This is at wide open at f1.4.
Yeah.
And it's extremely sharp, and no real chromatic aberration, like not noticeable vignetting. Here you are posing, Chelsea.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
This was at f2.8, and again, it seemed extremely sharp. It was a great combination with that. Here's this guy pretending to be Tony Montana. But as we zoom in, I was using the eye detect autofocus here because he was well lit. It happened to lock onto his eye appropriately, and I was able to shoot it at the right moment. You can see this is fairly high ISO, but it ended up being pretty sharp, and it pretty much got the focus correctly. Here's another model. Eye detect definitely worked on this, and you can see, looking at her eye, that it's just extremely sharp. And now, there were a few shots in this set where eye detect just decided to hunt, where it just missed. You have to be using eye detect with this 85mm f1.4 because any other focusing method just wouldn't be precise enough.
I tried both. I had some luck with just manually choosing the autofocus points.
Using a single autofocus
Yeah.
point,
Mhm.
and it worked okay
Just
for
a
you.
flexible point and then just choosing it
Yeah.
manually. It did take that extra beat because, it was programmed to like the C1 button, and then you use the little turn dial, and sometimes my thumb would push it and set it the wrong way, and then I'd end up in a menu system. So that happened every once in a while, and that could be frustrating. But when I did get it to work properly, then, I was getting a lot of shots in focus that way.
Yeah, and that's one big point I want to make. You can't review the lens without reviewing the camera that you're using it with, especially as we jump into a fast lens with a really shallow depth of field. We need a camera that can focus precisely, because if the focusing's off a little bit, the whole shot is ruined. So it's an ecosystem that works together. We have to review them hand in hand, and we were working with mostly the A7R II. But overall, it did a pretty good job. And like I said, a little frustration with the focusing points, but it got the job done.
This brought up some interesting conversation with the other photographers where when we're reviewing photos, it's like professionally we have to have things perfectly in focus, but artistically that's not really the way that photography works. So you kind of end up in this weird predicament where you're reviewing gear and you have to be analytical and a perfectionist about it, even though that's not necessarily what you're going to do professionally all of the time.
Yeah, not everybody is as picky as we are. We have a commercial background where photos just get patently rejected if it's focused on the tip of the eyelashes instead of the eye.
Yeah, but you
So
can go into any magazine. In fact, a wedding magazine, I think it's somewhat local, maybe in the tri-state area around here. Their cover is completely out of focus.
yeah,
The model's arm is in focus and her face is out of focus, and that gets put on a magazine. And it's not just small magazines. You'll see it walk by Victoria's Secret. We've done that many times, and they have a huge picture, and her collarbone's in focus.
yeah.
And it's like, that has to be up to the shooter. Is that the most important thing to you? I like sharpness to be right on the eye most of the time, but I don't know. I know this is supposed to be all like technical, but I always get into the artistic side where I'm like, oh, it's kind
Well,
of philosophical. If you don't care, then
yeah, and it speaks to
it's a moot
the
point.
reason that so many people have a different experience than we do because they don't care that it's not precisely in focus. It doesn't matter that much. It won't show up on if it's in a small image. It's when you zoom in tight
Yeah.
if you're trying to print it big that you'll notice it. And also if you're kind of trained to look for problems like that, which we are. The 24-70 f2.8, very solid lens. Actually felt better than the Canon and Nikon
I like this lens a
24-70
lot.
f2.8s. Yeah, the zoom ring felt great. The
Mhm.
manual focusing worked really well. It is not an image stabilized lens, and you kind of want it to be. It's something I miss in the Canon world too. But with the Sony A7R II, the sensor is stabilized, so that combination worked out just great for me. I will also say a lot of people bought into the mirrorless systems initially because they wanted smaller, lighter cameras. And with this G Master lens on the A7R II, it was bigger than our 5DSR with the Canon 24-70 f2.8.
I
So
think that that's kind of going away. I think the whole size issue is not what people are getting into the system for anymore.
yeah, what I like about it is the electronic viewfinder and
Yeah.
the sensor stabilization and the 4K video. And those are things I can't get from Canon now. But the lens is, at least they're no longer holding me back because up until now I've had to use adapted lenses. So here's some 24-70 f2.8 samples. And
The focus is on him.
okay. I was gonna say she's a little bit out of focus, but you're right. Looking at his face, you can see it's really sharp. This is at ISO 130 millimeters, and the color and contrast has been just fantastic. I don't know that I demonstrated any, but we had some heavily backlit shots, and the contrast was just perfect on it, and that's a sign of a really good lens. Maybe a little bit of motion blur here, but artistically, I think it works, as you were saying. Check out her eye on this one. And you can see her eye is actually, this is how shallow the dip of the field is. So here we actually missed focus. Here we got focus on the eyebrow instead of the eye itself. And I might have just grabbed the wrong sample picture from
yeah,
you.
you grabbed the wrong sample picture. We have one where her iris is perfectly in focus, but this isn't.
Yeah, so
the
now
same.
it focused on her forehead. And if you use
Yeah.
the face detect focusing, that's pretty much what it will always do.
Yeah.
I talked to one of the Sony techs who said his technique is to use face detect and then manually refocus after focusing. So he'll focus with face detect and then manually tilt the focusing ring a little bit to lock it in on the eye. And so that's another technique. It's kind of a workaround. It's not something you really have to deal with in the DSLR world, where
Yeah.
you can just put the focusing point on the eye and kind of count on it being there. But no matter what camera you're using, if you're working with shallow depth of field, some percentage of the shots are going to be out of focus. It's not user error. It's just how it works in reality. So you take 10 shots and you pick the sharpest one, and that's just how things go.
Yeah, her lashes even look in focus, but this is a
Yeah,
series
it
of
grabbed
maybe
onto her
there are probably
forehead.
10 shots in a row that I took like this, and I don't know. I'd have to go back and look at which percentage was in focus, but it did nail the eye at one point. So
Yeah,
just take a lot of shots.
yeah, that is exactly it. With a DSLR, I normally use continuous focus, so the camera's kind of constantly hunting a little bit, and there'll be that little bit of variation. But even if you try to manually focus, your body is going to move forward and backwards just enough, and the model is probably human too. And you could see the difference between the forehead and eye, not a big distance, certainly as much as your body moves. This nice lady decided to volunteer as a model, and anyway, you can see the colors are
I
nice
love
and
that
bright.
lady.
Yeah, she was really nice. Another wide shot. I really like zooms. Now, Sony's had good primes, but they haven't had great zooms. And so the ability to zoom from 20 millimeters, 24 millimeters to 70 millimeters, to me, it's just really valuable, especially if you're shooting an event or something where you can't plan out the type of lens that you need. You can't take the time to switch lenses. So in summary, the combination of the 24 to 70 f2.8 and the A7R2 was so good that I would happily pick it up instead of a DSLR and not
like
have
that
any
combo.
regrets and
Yeah.
be able to get 4K video and everything. And this is the first time this has kind of happened. Before this, when I need to shoot 4K video and stills, I would use the A7R2, but with an adapted Canon lens. And that means the autofocus was terrible, so I would always end up manually focusing. Now I don't have to deal with that, assuming I actually had the lens. I had to give it back. Real quickly, I want to say Sony Alpha Rumors just posted that the 7200 f2.8 G Master lens, Best Buy had priced it at $3,500. Anyway, it's the last of the G Master lenses that they've announced. We're excited about this because the 7200 f2.8 is like a staple of portrait photographer.
We didn't get to use this one.
Yeah, it won't be. They're still developing it, so it was there, but we couldn't really shoot with it because it's not quite ready.
I got to see
We're
it.
looking forward to it.
I had a brush with it.
Yeah. And they brought this out of embargo. They have a new wireless flash system, and we're kind of like, oh, good, it's about time. Anyway, it's a radio flash system that gives you control over the output of multiple groups of flashes. I'm glad to see this, but at the same time, I'm still waiting for a flash with the radio receiver built in, because now you have to buy a separate receiver and a separate flash and put them together. And what that means is you have an extra set of batteries, you have an extra thing that can fail. And we've been using like the Cactus wireless flashes. I think they're RF60, and they don't have TTL and such, but they're $160 and they have the receiver built into them and they work really well. So those will work with these Sony cameras too, just not with TTL. You want to take some calls?
Yeah, but I don't think people are calling
No,
us.
there's one caller that just showed up.
Oh, okay. If you want to talk to us, call us at this number here. And let me just pull it up.
Do you want me to?
Oh, I think I got it.
Okay.
Hi, caller. You're on the air. Thanks, Patrick. What kind of what do you shoot? Well, so if you're doing portrait work, I would start you by looking at the lens selection, and um, but yeah, for you're spending 7D Mark II money. Is that what you said? That's what you're considering?
Well, yeah, I have 7D and then 7D Mark II, sorry. And, I was looking at like this, 6D or Canon or Sony A7 II. But then, those are like extra $600. And
Yeah.
I was thinking, use that money, invest in lens, because that's
Sure,
the
you did.
advice you gave on your show, invest in better glass. And, with the A6300, you get, better focus. I don't know if it's better focusing than the 7D Mark II.
No, it's not
But,
better than the
I just
7D
want-
Mark II.
They want us to repeat the
Yeah.
question because they can't hear Patrick.
Oh,
I had to reroute.
Patrick is asking if he's a portrait shooter. He's wondering if he should use the 7D Mark II or go for the new A6300. And of those two, I would definitely send Patrick towards the 7D Mark II. He asked if the focusing on the A6300 was better than the 7D Mark II, and I can't say it's better. It's very good, but the 7D Mark II is basically the best camera we've ever used. It shoots at 10 frames a second with just an incredible focusing spread, and it just locks on. But maybe more importantly than either of those factors is the lens selection. So up until it's not even yet available, but now we finally have one portrait lens or two portrait lenses coming for the Sony world. But up until that point, we haven't had a great portrait lens, whereas in the Canon world, you have a wide selection of portrait lenses. And the portrait lenses that we are going to get for Sony are very high end. They're quite expensive, and I don't know what your budget is, but if you
Well, yeah, I have the. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
well, I guess what I'm saying is I would probably steer you towards neither of those, but as you suggested, maybe get a full frame camera. A Canon 6D
Right.
with the Canon 7200 f2.8 is an absolutely fantastic combination. I would like that even better than like a D610 and the Nikon 7200 f2.8. So I know you called in about
Right.
Sony gear, and here I am steering you away from it. Now, in the portrait world, we haven't had the. I would highly recommend the A7R2 and the 85 millimeter f1.4, but at that point, you would have to do all your portrait work with that one lens. We'll see the
And
7200 soon, the f2.8 soon, and we'll get to play with it. So if you feel like holding
okay.
out, maybe I can recommend that, but it'll be expensive.
And quick question.
Sure.
So what's the? I mean, you said there's the new 85 1.4. So who's the baddest 1.8 for then? It's just for someone that wants to save a bit of cash, or
Yeah, so the baddest lens is, of course, it's well, it has image stabilization built into it, which is one advantage, and it also doesn't
right?
have quite the same background blur. Now, we haven't done a side by
Okay.
side comparison of it yet, but I would say
Okay.
any sharpness differences probably aren't going to be that big of a deal because these are lenses that you tend to shoot wide open, where the vast majority of the picture is completely background blurred anyway. So I would pick
Mm-hmm.
the f1.4 to get that little bit of extra background blur, and I'd
Okay.
pick the f1.8 as a less expensive alternative to it.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Hi, give us a call in at this number here on screen and ask us about Sony stuff or whatever entertains Chelsea.
I know.
But call in. We're actually running out of callers, whereas last time we had far too many
I
callers.
know. Everybody wanted to talk to you, but they're scared of me because I've got those really strong opinions about pancakes,
Uh-huh.
and I feel like that's threatening.
Hey, caller, you're on the air. 404 area code. Hello? Caller, you're on the air? Okay. Well, do you have any questions coming in through chat, Chelsea?
Hmm?
Do you have any questions?
They want to know if I like spaghetti vongole. I don't know what that is.
Do you have any
Uh,
questions you can answer?
they they want to know about making an egg and cheese sandwich. Oh, I thought that was a topic you'd be really passionate about. Sorry.
Caller hung up. Okay. Well, we're open to calls here. 347-989-1163. If nobody calls in, we'll just drop the stream. I'm surprised nobody's calling in.
I have a question.
Sure, Justin.
Will you be buying either one of those two lenses?
Man, that is a good question because they are not cheap. They are just not cheap.
But I really like the 24 to 70, and I really like the 85 as well.
Yes, I really like them both. I definitely want them both, but when it comes to spending our own money, the 2470, $2,200.
That's a lot.
So, hey, caller, you're on the air.
Hey, Tony.
Hey,
Hey, how are you doing? My name's Dylan. I'm from Atlanta.
hey,
Hi,
Dylan from
Dylan.
Atlanta.
I just want to, first of all, mention that you and Chelsea are just awesome.
Oh, thanks.
I'm an owner of 2 of your books, and frankly, I've learned photography 98% of just reading your books and watching your content on YouTube. And I don't,
Thought I could help.
I'm not a shooter of Sony, but I do have one quick question.
Okay.
How does the single-shot autofocus of the A7 series and A6300 compared to like that of the GH4 in single shot?
Well, the GH4 doesn't have the best focusing system, but I always found that the single shot worked just fine for static subjects on any of those cameras. So I guess my answer is they're all just fine. Does that help?
Do you think they would all do a good job for just like standard portraiture work?
Oh, well, for portraiture work, you start to get into a lot of other factors like, well, for one, as kind of mentioned earlier, usability. The GH4 is incredibly usable, and I find it much easier to select a focusing point. It also has a touch screen, so you can touch right on the eye and focus on that. Whereas with the Sonys, that can be a bit of a challenge. You have the eye-controlled autofocus, which works perfectly 90% of the time,
In good conditions, yeah.
and fails 10% of the time, which can be a little bit frustrating. So usability is a factor, and then variety of lenses is a factor too. There are some good portrait lenses for both Sony and the Micro Four Thirds, like the 75 millimeter. What is it? f1.2 or something that
Yeah.
we use is fantastic in the micro four thirds world, and Sony is releasing a couple of new portrait lenses. But for portraiture, I still kind of push people to the DSLR world, mostly for the assortment of lenses.
Okay. And if you had any advice for someone hoping to go into wedding photography full time, what advice would you give them as far as gear goes?
Oh, gear wise.
Oh, I would definitely push you towards the DSLR world for that, because it's cheaper. It's just cheaper than anything mirrorless. You can get inexpensive bodies and lenses.
It can be done with a mirrorless system.
Yeah,
It's just the lenses are more affordable with a DSLR.
right. And just because they've been around longer, so you can go on eBay and get there were just hundreds of lenses that will do the job for less expensive. There's a wide variety of both native and third-party flashes that you might need.
The process would be more efficient overall, right?
Yeah, for me, for shooting weddings, I would happily use the Sony 24-70 f2.8 and the A7R2 for weddings, but you're probably that's going to run you like $5 or $6 grand, somewhere in there, just for that one body and lens. And you could definitely get similar results with less expensive older DSLR gear. So I don't know if you're walking into it with 20 grand to spend on gear or not, but most first-time wedding photographers are trying to get started for a little bit cheaper. And you can, a really good value for the close range work is the APS-C Sigma 18-35, which you could pair with just about any APS-C DSLR body. So something like a 7D or a D5500. And then Sigma, it looks like, I haven't tested it yet, but the 50-100 should be ideal for the more like headshot and portrait and longer range work that a wedding photographer needs to do. Does that help you out?
Yeah, that's about all I was looking for. Thank you very much, Tony.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks for calling in.
Hi, caller, you're on the air.
Hi.
Hi.
Hey,
Hi, guys. Hello.
what can we do for you?
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, sure. Just want to say hi.
Hey, what's that?
Hey,
What are you up to today?
where are you calling from?
I don't know, nothing actually. I'm from Switzerland and it's actually quite boring.
I
The
love
weather is bad, nothing to shoot.
I love Switzerland.
Yeah, what a beautiful place.
Good chocolate, nice mountains.
Oh, yeah.
Good watches if you can afford them,
Yeah, that's
which I can't. Okay, you didn't have a question for us, though?
No, but I just want to
No,
know,
actually not.
how was your day? What's your favorite
one.
movie?
My favorite movie is actually in moment The Revenant just came out.
Oh, is that the Leo DiCaprio
Yes.
movie?
I'm not
I've been
seen it.
wanting
Yeah,
to see
exactly. I love the scene inside the movie is great. Like the places where they shoot it is awesome.
that. Oh, we'll have to
And
check it out.
sorry?
I said we'll have to watch it.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. It's a must.
Cool. All right.
Okay, thanks for calling in.
Okay.
Wait, one more question.
Jessica got one more question for you.
Pancakes or waffles?
Pancake. Definitely pancake.
Oh,
Team pancake.
I'm sorry you're mistaken, and for that, I'm hanging up. Next time, try
Bye.
harder. Thank you for calling.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye. Thanks.
Hi, caller, you're on the air. 786 area code, you're there. Hello.
You're here. Talk.
Yeah, my name is Melvin. I'm calling from Miami.
Oh, awesome. We were just in Miami. Beautiful town.
Yeah, I heard that. I mean, I'm sorry I missed you guys.
How did you land in Miami?
I've been living here for the last 8 years.
What brought you there 8 years ago?
I moved from Orlando. I started working for Discovery Channel.
Oh, the Discovery Channel. Oh, awesome. That's a
Yeah.
cool gig. So
I'm more into video. So my question is related to the video continuous autofocus on the A6300 versus maybe the Canon dual pixel autofocus? How do they compare?
That's a good question, and I actually didn't do a side-by-side test. I will say I did get video clips that I don't think we have queued up of the continuous autofocus working with subjects coming towards us, and we found that it did work pretty well. But with the caveat that if you use continuous autofocus when something is not moving, like a still subject, it will constantly hunt in and out. So it's not that precise. And it gets to be a little frustrating for that reason. But the other continuous autofocusing systems kind of have that problem too. So I can't precisely answer your question now, but I will take a look at that for the follow-up full review that we'll do. We'll make sure to adjust that. Do you have any other questions for us?
No, not really. The thing is that we used to using video cameras where the autofocus pretty good on those, like camcorders, palmcorders.
Yeah.
But on the still cameras, those still had to catch up on that, that technology. So we can get the thing autofocus.
Both Sony and Canon are making a lot of progress on here, and they tend to lead the pack. Now, another camera you might want to look at is the Samsung NX1, because we did a comparison of that against Sony and Canon cameras, and it was the best. It just did an awesome job of tracking focus. So I know that shot you're trying to get where something is like coming towards you and you want to keep focus on it. It's a very hard shot to get, especially with a telephoto lens. And yeah, we found the best luck with the Samsung.
Okay, thanks for answering my question. Looking forward next time you come to Miami, maybe you guys can do a meet and greet.
Yeah, that's a good idea. We pondered it, but man, we were tired.
We were really busy, and then we were very tired, so we slept a bit, and we went to this restaurant called Yucca, right on Lincoln. Was it called Lincoln Walk? I don't know. It was good.
Yeah.
Yep. So we'll have to meet up with people next time.
Okay, thanks for calling in.
Take care.
Bye, thanks.
Hey, caller, you're on the air. 828 area code, you're on the air.
Oh, hi there.
Hey.
I may have missed this because I picked up your stream after you had started, but I know that y'all like the Sony a7S II for video.
Yeah, it's a great
And
camera.
I'm wondering what you think of the A6300 compared to that. Is it like a junior version, or is it not even in the same league?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a junior version. The 4K video that we had was extremely clean, and it was just so much cleaner than the GH4. And the GH4 tended to be really, really clean. So it lacks the sensor stabilization of the A7 II, which is kind of a big deal if you're hand holding and you want to use fast primes. But if you're using a stabilized lens or you're on a tripod, that really won't make much difference at all. So yeah, it's a junior version of it with some of the same usability problems too, like the same lack of a touch screen, the same easy way to kind of change focusing points, but great image quality. Any other follow-up questions?
Not right now, but thank you.
Do you have any pets? No?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Chelsea asked if you had any pets.
Pets, yes.
What do you got?
Cat.
Cat?
A couple of wildcats, rescued wildcats.
Oh, literally a wildcat.
Well, feral.
Feral.
Oh, I thought you meant
brought
like the
inside.
separate species of wildcat from which domestic cats were bred.
Like bobcats. No,
what are their names?
no bobcats indoors.
I could recommend
one
a
is
name
named
for you.
Mimi, and the other is Bunny, which are pretty dainty names for vicious little monsters.
I know that's tough, right? Because if they don't come back home, you got to go out on the street and be like, Mimi, Bunny.
I have an idea for a name. You could call one Colin Farrell. Get it?
Yeah.
Tony rolls his eyes.
I get it.
Just putting it out there. One last question. Pancake or waffle?
Oh, pancakes.
Team pancake.
You've all betrayed me.
Team pancake. Thank you. I respect you.
Okay, thanks for calling in.
Thank you.
We don't have any other callers queued up, so I guess we can...
You know what? This was your
Wrap it up.
time to entertain me.
You failed Chelsea. She's disappointed, and now she'll probably never do this again.
No, I'm not coming back.
Okay, thanks for joining us.
Wait, is that a call?
Yes.
Yes, we just got a call. Okay,
Nice.
you saved us. Hi, caller. You're on the air.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello. Hello.
How you guys doing?
Good. How are you? Jinx.
Yeah, maybe you guys remember me from the Cayman Airways flight to Cuba.
I do remember
Oh,
you.
hey.
Whoa. Thanks for calling in. So, what's your name again?
Yeah, my name is Aap.
That's
yeah,
right.
I remember you
Blonde guy
asked
on the
me.
plane.
You asked me a question about some piece of gear, and you asked me. I can't
Yeah,
remember what it was.
yeah. So you guys were up to Cuba to get some photo shoots over there. So
Yeah, that's before we were going to Cuba. But you asked me something that
on
was.
my off day, and I saw you guys. I saw you guys popping up on the screen. It's a little bit delay here on the line. So anyway, about the camera.
Yeah.
We talked about cameras and stuff like that, and I was sort of like, I would like to buy another camera. I don't have a camera at the moment, and for me, I was sort of like, I was really looking for a portable camera, sort of like, or a Canon DSLR, and sometimes the best camera is the camera you can always have with you in portability, right? But I still sort of like has this in the new Canon 80Ds coming out soon as well. It's such a big. I sort of like the Canon is much more in real life is much more usable than the Sony A6300. Where like the screen and you can focus in is so much easier. Have a little bit more. It's very difficult to choose from a pocketable camera, but in fiddling around with little buttons and focus in. No touch screen.
I totally agree with that.
Like maybe I wish I bought the Canon with a touchscreen. It's way much easier to. Oh, you guys are gone?
No, we're here. I think did you have a GH4 too?
Okay. No, but I don't have a camera at all. But I want to buy a camera again. But I was focused on the Sony one.
Yeah.
6300, but
well, you got it down.
Like and then the lenses, because I think they brought a new Sigma 11 something. You can you can buy the Canon lenses as well on the Sony, but then it still becomes
but then it doesn't focus
again.
well.
So what?
Yeah, so you pretty much summed it up perfectly. The A6300 is smaller, but the controls aren't great. The 80D will have fantastic controls, touchscreen, a screen that flips out, and nice buttons and dials and stuff, but it's way bigger and bulkier. So that's just the choice you have to make.
Yeah.
The Canon will also have more lenses available natively, and you can adapt anything to the Sony, but then you completely give up the size benefits, and the autofocusing with adaptive lenses is technically there, but it isn't really very usable. I pretty much manually focus anytime I have to use an adapter because it's just more reliable to do that.
It's a pain, but I always think people should try to rent gear because it's such a personal experience having a camera, and it really depends on what you like. So it's nice to actually have it in your hand for a week and see if you like it.
Yeah. So the only thing is sort of like I would then buy the Sony with the standard lens, the relatively small lens, and then have that as on the go camera. So you have always a camera with you. And still able to take pictures at any time.
Well, when you choose one, you should get back to us and tell us what you choose and if you end up liking it.
Yeah, but yeah, I think the A6300 is good for that. The standard lens isn't going to be real sharp, but no super small lens is going to be super sharp like that. You can get maybe a prime, but yeah, I think your concern is about size, and the 70D is a camera I don't like to bring with me, and this. Or maybe an EM5 Mark II are cameras that I will grab. And when you get to dinner, you can put it on the table, and it doesn't take up all the room for the appetizers. And that's just one of the biggest things for me is it's not a big deal to put on the restaurant table.
Did we get it?
Yeah.
Did we do it?
Yeah. It's just sort of like a trade-off. Yeah, I think you have to really prioritize your the type of camera, and then have if you choose for the Sony, then you have to take the downside of it. It's not as handy to work with as the Canon, for example. But
right, well, a good compromise.
You have a camera all the time with you.
The EM10 or the EM5 Mark II have better controls, and they're very small. It's just the image quality is slightly lower. So I'll mix it I'll mix it up even more. Throw that one extra thing in there. Great controls, even smaller, slightly lower image quality, and that's actually my favorite for that like go-to camera. But I see we have another call on the air, so I will thank you for giving us a great flight, and we'll see you next time we're going to Cuba.
Yeah,
hopefully.
man.
All right, take care.
Okay. All right, nice.
Nice
All
talking
right,
to
cut
you.
you off. Hi, caller, you're on the air. This guy's got a blocked phone number.
Hello.
So I'm
I
curious.
saw that.
Hello.
Hello.
It's me. Uh-oh. Mom?
He chickened out.
Is it you, Mom? It's not.
Okay, I guess that's it. We took all the calls, everybody who wanted to call in. I was hoping some of the like angry commenters from Sony Alpha Rumors would call in and tell me that how stupid I was, but nobody angry ever calls in.
Why would you want that?
I don't know. It'd be fun to actually challenge somebody, but
Because we could just be like, no, you are. I know you are, but what am I? Stop hitting yourself.
caller, you still haven't woken up, have you?
Come on. Click them. Make them talk to us.
Click, click, hello. All right, thanks, guys. I will plug.
That's so sad.
Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook so that you can see when we have upcoming live streams. And, of course, we have lots of books and stuff. Stunning Digital Photography, 12 hours of video, only $9.99, and it teaches you everything you want to know about the art of photography, composition, lighting, mood, expression, all the things that count way more than gear. If you're interested in post-processing, we have books on Lightroom and Photoshop and a whole book dedicated to camera gear stuff. You can get it all at Amazon or go to sdp.io/store with worldwide shipping.
You
Someone's
got
trying to call
another
us.
call? Yep. I don't know if you want to take it or.
Why
Yeah,
not?
we do.
Hi, caller, you're on the air.
Hi, Tony. John Kraling calling from Boardman, Wisconsin. How are you today?
Hey,
Good.
John.
Hey, John from Wisconsin. What can we do for you?
I caught a little bit about your show here, and it looks like, I don't know if we're on live or not, or
Yep.
this is a delay.
Yeah.
It's live.
But since we're on the 6300, I look at that as kind of a take-along nighttime, like you're talking about the dinner table camera or going to a bar or going to take a few pictures of a band. And in that, I'd look at it like a low-light solution.
Yeah, it's great in low light.
Yeah.
And what would be a good lens recommendation for, let's say, the 6300 in kind of a wide type lens, a fast wide lens?
We have a pancake lens for it. I'm trying to remember exactly what it is. So the 20 millimeter f2.8 is a lens I love for just kind of taking along because it just slots on there. It barely extends past the grip of the A6300, so it remains really pocketable, and it's fairly fast. Now, it doesn't have image stabilization, and nor does the 6300 have IS in the body. It doesn't have steady shot inside. So you're still going to have to keep that shutter speed up a little bit.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I'm not familiar with the entire lineup of lenses.
It would be great to own the A7, but that's another whole program. One thing too, to touch on the cats a little bit. I've got 3 cats here. 2 of them were walk-ons.
Uh-huh.
What's a walk-on?
And they showed up at our door.
Oh.
And we took them in.
We all of our cats were that.
Yeah, does anybody go to like the cat store to buy a cat? I think they just show up.
They're always showing up here, believe me. I don't know what it is. There's an aura of cat lover here or something. I don't know. But getting to the naming convention, just to throw this out, we got real complicated with that. They're all pusses. All of our cats are in the puss family, so they're all pusses.
Uh-huh.
And their names are Little Puss, Big Puss, and Baby Puss.
That's pretty cute.
Yeah.
We had a cat named Ballsy.
Why was he called that?
Because it showed up at our door. It was a walk-in, as you would say, and it hadn't been neutered. And that was new to our family.
Oh.
But then the problem is when you go to the vet and they ask your pet's name, then it was.
Then you're like, it's Frank. Frank.
We called it Whiskers. We were like, oh, Whiskers.
His public name
yeah,
is Whiskers.
That's it.
Right. Cool. Yeah.
Can I
Well,
update my
I'll let you
previous
go.
suggestion? I just want to say Sony has a 35 millimeter f1.8 with image stabilization and is fatter, but that would be better on the light. It's like a normal
Yeah,
perspective, but it's not super
It
wide.
would be tough for me to go that direction. I'll just stick with my big Nikon for now,
Oh, okay.
and maybe someday work into the smaller, fast.
Any more
deal
cat
when
talk?
they get the lenses? What's that?
I just wanted to make sure I didn't interrupt your cat conversation.
I like the cat talk.
Yes.
Cat talk with
Oh.
Chelsea.
Cats and pancakes. That's the name of the show. Oh,
We're
man.
kicking them out the door today.
Eyes
because
really
it's
lit up on that
64
one.
degrees, and we're in Wisconsin, so it's a big deal.
How's the cheese situation over there?
Well, they're stealing the cheese. I don't know if you've heard that.
I did. That's why I'm asking. I'm concerned about the national
I
cheese
haven't really
supply.
heard too much.
No.
Yeah, I haven't heard too much more about it, but I know they're stealing $100,000 trucks, $60,000 trucks of cheese, and there
It wasn't me.
is currently an investigation.
Yeah.
And then
it's
what?
unbelievable
Like, how do you
what
unload
cheese
that much
costs.
cheese?
We're the cheese black market.
Yeah.
It is. It is. There must be one.
There has to be one.
Yeah, we have that going for us.
We have to go on the dark web and look up the black market
Right.
cheese. I'm gonna buy it with my
Right.
Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
This is why Tony doesn't let me go off script with the gear questions, because it's just gonna come around to pancakes and black market cheese. That's no kind of show.
I like the pancake idea, but yeah.
Yeah.
I would vote for the pancakes.
Oh, you're on Team Pancake
Yeah.
as well.
I am. I am.
Tony. Looks like maybe you made a mistake, Tony, and pancakes are king.
Where are you on this, Justin?
Don't bring Justin into this.
Choose wisely.
He's a sensitive man.
I've been having lots of waffles lately, and like you mentioned, they go great with chicken. And I've been having waffles and sausage like every other morning.
Wow,
really
Justin,
healthy.
Nice.
I handle payroll, Justin.
It's a texture thing, I think.
Yeah.
And pancake weighs a little bit more towards cameras, and pancakes are easier.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
They are easier.
They're nicer. I like them. Okay, thanks for calling
Waffles
in.
are.
Oh, sorry.
All right. Have a good one, Chelsea. Have a
Thanks.
good one, Tony.
Yeah, we
Thank
probably
Bye.
didn't need to.
Now people are just upset every time we mention pancakes.
Hey, caller, you're on the air.
Hello?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, awesome. I'm having a question about switching gear from. I have used the Nikon D4 and recently bought Samsung's latest NX1 and NX500 in November. And as you all know, the rumors are that they are closing down camera production. So I thought I was going to head over to Sony instead. And I'm wondering what I should buy to replace it, because the autofocus in the NX1 sucks.
You found the autofocus in the NX1 sucked, huh? Because we actually liked it.
Yeah, I'm shooting events in low light.
Oh.
So that's a problem I have. In daylight, it's awesome, but when I'm shooting in nightclubs and on stages and artists, it's not working at all. I'm struggling to get focus in every shot, basically.
Well,
except for when the stage is way lit up.
I wouldn't hesitate to recommend the A7R2 with the new Sony 24-70 f2.8 G Master, but that's going to be an expensive combination. Maybe slightly cheaper than that.
That's really not a problem. I'm looking for good gear, so since I had Nikon D4 and was going to buy the D5, but I don't like how Nikon is going with their approach in cameras. I like all the technical stuff that Sony and Samsung has, or Samsung had, and now Sony has. So
yeah, you don't have any video requirements.
The price is really not the issue.
Is it just stills?
No, I'm going to start to shoot weddings as well with a companion of mine. So I'm going to do some video and also some nightclub videos as well.
Well, if you do want to shoot the videos, like I feel like the A7R2 is the way to go. It's so much better of a video camera than anything else in the DSLR world. So yeah, that's going to be an expensive combination. If it were just stills, I'd push you towards a D810. probably with the Nikon or Tamron 20 to 24 to 70 f2.8. Those
Even
are
with
great.
that low, even in that low light of a nightclub.
Yeah, I
Because
like.
the Sony, I think, looks so much better in low light.
Yeah, they're pretty similar. They're real close, and they both have good focusing systems. And the Nikon would be a little bit cheaper.
Yeah.
Um,
He doesn't like
Yeah.
where Nikon's going.
So
good point.
how are the Sony comparing in autofocus in low light compared to, for example, D4 or the D810?
What did you think, Chelsea?
The low light autofocus?
Yeah.
I'm pulling for experiences, like which shoot did we do in extreme low light?
Well, like the stuff at the Cuban restaurant was in low light. A lot of the indoor stuff.
I haven't really looked through those pictures, to be honest, so it felt fine at the time, but I to be honest with you, I'd have to look through them to really get an idea.
Yeah.
How about
well,
you?
Yeah, my experience was that it focused really
Did
well,
well.
in low light. The most important thing is going to be getting a fast lens. So if you are,
For
me,
I'm
I'd
going
grab the
for
24 to 70
85.
f2.8.
The new G Master setup. I'm getting all three of them if I'm changing Sony.
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah,
that's
we
not a
like them a
problem.
lot.
And one last question is the external flash, because Samsung's external flash is using the LED and it's flooding the object with light. So you think, hey, everything is green. I'm going to get a perfectly sharp picture here. And it's just hunting and hunting and hunting focus forever. And people are just standing there like, what are you doing? And the system, what kind of autofocus system does the external flash on Sony's equipment use? Is it like the same on, it's using the same kind of system that Nikon and Canon does, where you get a focus in a split second?
I can't speak from experience with that. We haven't tested the Sonys with the flashes. I am just generally not an on-camera flash person. So either I'm using off-camera strobes or I'm shooting with just natural light. So I don't think either of us are equipped to answer that. Sorry.
No.
Okay.
We failed you.
But then you probably find it somewhere else on the net then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good luck with that.
Yeah. Thank you a lot. I will check out the A7 II and maybe get a A6300 together with that. It does a great combo if I want to use the video from the A6300 and the larger camera. Is that a good combination?
Oh, yeah, if you wanted to get the A6300 just for video. Yeah, I think that works. I really like the 18 to 105 f4 for video, and even in low light, even at f4, it does a pretty good job. Yeah.
Okay, that's perfect because sometimes you need two cameras to cover up everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. You do. Two angles. Okay. Thanks for calling in.
Have a good day.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.
Yeah, he makes a good point that the A6300 is a good B-roll camera.
Mm.
Hey, caller, you're on the air.
I am? All right.
Yes.
Cool.
Hey.
So this is Alex Ikonen from Finland calling. And I have a bit of a question about the A6300.
Okay.
Where are you calling from?
Finland.
Finland.
Oh, okay.
So the other side of the pond.
Yeah.
Right. So I guess we could call it sort of the cutting-edge APS-C sensor at the moment, or do you agree?
In the Sony A6300, yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's got the 4K
what I'm
video.
thinking is I'm shooting full frame at the moment, mostly because I'm working as a part-time photographer at the university. But soon I probably won't have that job anymore. So I've been thinking of switching to APS-C, something smaller and lighter. So that Sony is one of my options. And I'm shooting an 5D Mark II at the moment, and it's getting a bit old. So what do you think? How does the noise performance, of course the focus is better on the DSLR, but how does the noise performance compare in a very modern APS-C and in a somewhat oldish DSLR, full-frame DSLR?
It's going to be better on the full-frame camera. It just is, yeah. So you'd have to make up about 2.5 stops. Well, no, a little more than a stop of light to match the same image quality. And you just won't be able to do that. Like the 5D Mark II, you're right, it's a little bit long in the tooth, but the images are still going to be cleaner. And you'll get the full benefit of the wide variety of full-frame lenses that are out there. So there's just a lot more like fast lenses, especially than there are for the A6300 system.
That's one reason why I'm sort of still hesitating to change. I have some really nice glass like the 135 f2. I just love that thing, and there really is nothing like that for mirrorless or for APS-C.
Yeah, so lens selection is a big part of it. Now, if you said you needed to also record 4K video, I'd say, yeah, get the 6300. But if you're just shooting stills, the DSLR full frame, it's hard to beat. And the 5D Mark II is available at just really low prices used now. Those things hold up too. So
yeah, I mean, I have already one, and I mean, maybe when I get a job outside photography, something that actually pays well, then I might consider the 5DX. Or I don't know if that's just a rumor, but we'll see.
yeah, and yeah, you'd probably end up spending more on lenses anyway, because the Canon lenses can get so cheap.
I already have a pretty nice collection of those, so now I'm more concerned of the body.
Yeah, sounds like you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, so thanks for your tips.
Okay, thanks.
Thank
Cheers.
you.
Yeah. Thanks.
Hello.
Hey, this is Tony
Hello?
and Chelsea. How you doing?
Hi. My name is Ayo. I'm calling from California.
Oh, hey.
And yeah, I just have like 2 questions.
Okay.
So the first is like, is Sony the only brand that makes mirrorless full frame? And are there like budget full frame cameras that are out there that's good?
I'm not coming up with anything. Yeah, I think they're the only ones. Yeah, Sony's the only one who makes mirrorless full frame.
Yeah, I think they must be.
And
Yeah,
why do you
because
ask?
I tried searching, but I couldn't come up with anything apart from Sony.
Yeah, I think it's just
And
Sony. Yeah.
okay, so the other question is, right now I have the A6000 camera, but I'm thinking of switching to the Lumix G7.
Okay.
And so I'm just like a hobby photographer, like just random things, nothing professional. So I was thinking of just going with the G7 because of the lens option.
Yeah, those
do you
Micro
think
Four
that's
Thirds
a good
lenses.
idea?
So sorry, say that again.
Oh yeah, so I'm thinking of like switching to the Lumix G7 because of the 4K, and I'm thinking there are more lens options out there for on budget.
Sorry, Chelsea.
So is that a good? Would you advise me to do that, or should I just stick to the Sony A6000?
I mean, I don't think you'll see. Is there a specific lens that you want in the Micro Four Thirds system that you can't get for Sony? Because to switch, requires learning a new system, and the G7 is a great camera. It does have some distinct advantages over the A6000. And you're right, the Micro Four Thirds lens lineup is fantastic. It actually blows away the Sony APS-C lineup. But what is it? What lens specifically did you want?
Okay, so just things I could use for like landscape, architectural structures, and things like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I would wait until specifically you had some need that couldn't be fulfilled, or if you just feel like changing. I mean, the G7's a great camera, and you're right, it's a good price, and it gives you 4K video, and there are lots of good lenses. It's also really compact, but I don't know that there's anything compelling. Like you could get the job done with the Sony too.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Because right now I only have the 20 mm pancake lens and the 55 to 210 for the Sony. Yeah, so I don't know.
Yeah, those are both good lenses. You said that it was the 55 f1.8, which I happen to have right here in front of me, the full frame lens, so it's more like a portrait lens for you.
Okay.
Yeah, but you could certainly replace those in Micro Four Thirds, but I don't think you're going to see a real difference in anything, usability or image quality or anything like that. The images will probably be a little bit worse. But you're right, you have a few more options, but I don't know. I don't hear a compelling story to bother selling and buying unless you just feel like you want new gear.
Oh, okay.
All right. Good luck with it.
Thank you very
Hi, Collie. You're on the air.
Hi, I'm actually calling from Oregon, so I'm on the same continent as you.
Oh, sweet.
I was curious about the new Sony 24-70 f2.8 lens, and how is that on a body without image stabilization, like say the A6300, compared to I guess A7R2, etc. I mean, is the image stabilization really a requirement for that big a lens? It looks pretty big to me when I see it in pictures.
Yeah, it is a big lens, and I really like to have image stabilization, especially as you get into like the high megapixels and stuff. It makes a difference. You'll definitely get some shots that are blurry.
Yeah.
If you're always in full sun and you're shooting at 1/1000th, it's not going to be a big deal. But we always find ourselves pushing the lower limit with the shutter speed. So I always try to shoot at the slowest shutter speed possible so I can use the lowest ISO possible so I can get the cleanest images possible.
Noise.
And when you have IS, there are lots of times when you can go slower and slower. So that makes a big deal. I really wish the A6300 had that stabilization inside. I mean, it's hard to ask that because like no DSLR has it. But
lenses often do. So that lens does not have stabilization. You really have to rely on the body to have the stabilization.
right,
That's
yeah, it doesn't
correct?
have it. The only 24 to 70 f2.8 that has it is the new Nikon VR lens. So otherwise, you're shooting without it. But if you're thinking about the A6300, you will probably get similar results with a lens that's a less expensive lens that's designed for APS-C, like the 18 to 105, because you'd be using such a small image circle. But I would probably push you, if you wanted to use that lens in particular and you were on more of a budget, I'd push you towards the A7 II, which I think it's $1,300 used now and has a stabilized sensor.
I see. So is that just that's a lens that you could eventually grow bodies into? I mean, I think the A7R2 has, is it 42 megapixels? Is the megapixels, we're talking those Sony guys, is that going to keep going up? And can the lens, is there like some limit, like 50 or 60 or 80 megapixels, what that lens will be good for? Do you have any idea about how that's going to work over the years with different bodies coming out?
I don't know what their future plans are. I will say that one of the big problems with the A7R2 is, it's 42 megapixels, and it turned out that Sony zooms just weren't really sharp enough to get great results with that. Some of the Canon zooms and some of the Sigma zooms we had much better results with. And you're right, good sharp glass needs high megapixels and vice versa. But I guess I forgot the question.
He's wondering how it will adapt.
I just wondered if we're going to see megapixel inflation keep going and to a limit that maybe even exceeds this lens, or maybe we won't if this lens is really good.
Canon's been pretty open about their plans to introduce higher and higher megapixels.
Yeah, Canon just keeps going.
Yeah, and I'm happy about that. I like having plenty of megapixels to work with. I wish the team at Adobe could get up to speed on this and make it work a little bit faster. That's the biggest problem with high megapixels, is how long it takes to process it all. But yeah, the image quality can be just fantastic. But we don't run into a hard limit. It's not like the lens has a limit of 30 megapixels. You put more megapixels in the sensor, you pretty much always get more detail from the lens. So it's more like a matter of percentages. More megapixels, you just get something more, especially out of the sharper the lens, the more you get out of it. You got anything else for us?
So if Sony, just one more question.
Sure.
So if Sony's coming out with G Master lenses for their FE line, their full frame line, are they coming out with some better or improved APS-C lenses for the A6300, etc. line?
That was my biggest disappointment.
Or are they not talking about it?
Yeah, they're still kind of using the strategy where all the pro lenses are going to be full frame, and all the APS-C lenses are going to be sort of consumer oriented. And it's a similar strategy to the Canon and Nikon. So yeah, that's what they're doing. The only company that's breaking that rule is Sigma. Sigma now has two pro APS-C lenses, the 18 to 35 f1.8 and the 50 to 100 f1.8. And those, at least we've tested the 18 to 35 f1.8, and it gives full frame results with an APS-C body. You can use APS-C bodies to get those results. You just need the right lens, and nobody else makes them. So those two Sigma lenses are a good reason to get a DSLR body, Canon Nikon Pentax you can get for it in the APS-C format. It's just way cheaper than going full frame. So,
okay, thank you very much.
Sure thing.
Thank you.
I do hope Sony gives us some pro quality APS-C glass. I would just let you get so much more out of their already good APS-C bodies. Hey, caller, you're on the air.
Hello?
Hi.
Hey.
You don't know me.
Oh, hey, caller.
Chelsea. who is your best friend and why is she the coolest?
I'm so glad you asked because it's Siobhan. And she's the coolest because she changes her hair so much. I feel like I'm always making new friends. Is that a good answer?
Cool. She sounds great.
I miss you. We have to come down to Philly and see you.
I miss you too.
You crazy woman.
Justin made me call in.
Who did? Justin?
Yeah. I was like, yeah, call her in.
Justin, you sneaky man. Yeah, we're getting a lot
For
of
some
gear.
reason, it just made me so nervous.
Do you have any other questions for us? Please don't be a gear question.
Wait, what?
Do you have any other questions for us?
No, I'm not going to have a gear question. When are you coming to visit me?
Well, we were hoping like next month when it's actually warm-ish.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, cool.
All right, bye.
Bye.
All right, thanks, stranger.
Con stranger.
Hey, caller, you're on the air.
No, you're not.
You are. Just screwing with you.
No, you're not.
Maybe they're not. Hello? 520?
Oh, hi, Tony.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. What can we do for you?
I've got a quick question for you.
Uh-oh.
I've got a Nikon a D5200 and an A5100, and I'm looking in the future at probably purchasing maybe a full frame camera.
Okay.
Do you have any advice on like what I should get?
What do you shoot?
Generally landscapes and some wildlife. I haven't gotten into portraits yet.
So those are the two opposite ends of the spectrum. If you said landscapes, I would I might just tell you to keep that D5200 and get a proper lens for it, or I might even send you, depends on your budget, I might send you into the Canon world and get the 400 f5.6 and then like a 7D or a 7D Mark II. If you're doing landscapes, yeah, you'll get better results with full frame, mostly because of the lens availability. But again, you could stick with your 5200 and put the Sigma 18-35 f1.8 on it. It's absolutely great for landscapes and it will give you pretty much full frame results, and it would be a lot cheaper. But the D610 is kind of our go-to entry-level full frame landscape camera because it has just awesome image quality. But it wouldn't be great for wildlife. So it's a compromise. You might end up sticking with two bodies like you have now.
So if I stuck with the 5200 and got the Sigma lens, I heard that it has some possibly focusing problems that you might have to make micro adjustments on. I'm not sure.
For landscape stuff, I wouldn't even sweat it because you'll be able to, you could use the live view and zoom in and that kind of thing wouldn't require any micro adjustments, especially for using live view. And especially at those kinds of distances, you know, the depth of field isn't going to be precise enough that micro adjustments would make a big deal for you anyway. But for the record, when we tested it, we didn't have any focusing problems at all.
Okay, great. I've got just one more question, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Lay it on us.
Earlier you were mentioning, like, especially with the A6300, I'm using an older version of Lightroom, so I'm having to basically convert all of my raw files from my cameras to either DNG or something that I can import.
Yeah,
so would you recommend hanging on to the original raw files or just tossing those and just keeping the DNG files?
In theory, the DNG should have all the information, so you should be able to just completely get rid of the original raw files and work with the DNGs. That's
okay. Great. Thanks. That was all the questions that I had. I appreciate it.
Okay. Thanks for calling in.
Thanks. Have a good one. Bye.
Caller, you're on the air. 901 area code.
Hey, Tony. Hey, Chester.
Hey, what's your name?
Hey, yes, my name is Jim Terrell. I'm actually from Rock Hill, South Carolina.
Oh, hey.
Hello.
What can we do for you?
Yes. Yeah, I had a question that's kind of far away from what you've been talking about so far. Actually, the question towards the DxO mark ratings when it comes down to camera bodies and lenses.
Sure.
And I actually have a A77, the first A77 from Sony, and then I have a Canon 7D, so I shoot with both cameras.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kind of been looking at the charts, and I know you always talk about the, I guess you said the perceptual megapixels that a camera can have, and how DxO actually rate them.
Yeah.
And I've been looking at some of the APS-C cameras have a higher rating than some of the full frame cameras. Now, if I take a look at the chart, would it be wise to gauge my next upgrade move, considering how they grade the camera and lenses together? Like, say, for instance, one good example, some of the camera combinations, like, of course, I'm a big Sony fan, so the old A line I use quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
The new Sony A7 II had almost a higher mark than some of the lens and body combinations of the Canon Mark II, as far as megapixels is concerned.
Yeah, for
So
the
I'm just
perceptual
wondering, would that
megapixel rating.
mean that the image quality would be a lot clearer and better than a full frame camera versus APS-C?
Yeah, there are lots of scenarios where a sharp lens on an APS-C body will get you sharper results than an unsharp lens on a full frame body. And DxO Mark does seem to be the best way to kind of objectively compare that, because they're really the only people who take like every lens and put it on every body and tell you something about it. Like, it'd be nice if we could just get that gear and shoot whatever we wanted side by side, but we can't. They have kind of done that. But yeah, it's not that full frame lenses are always better. In particular, like I've mentioned it a couple of times with that Sigma 1835 f1.8, it's APS-C and it's super sharp, and it will get you sharper results than, say, the Canon 24-105 on a full frame body, even though that would be more expensive. It'll just be sharper. See, but yeah, you're doing something smart. You're considering both the camera and lens in your buying decision, and they always have to work together. So many people buy into a camera body because it has cool features, and then they go looking for lenses and they realize, oh, there's not any great lenses for this particular camera. And then what? Then they write me an email and ask what they can get for wildlife, and I'm like, there are no wildlife lenses for that. But that happens.
Right, exactly. So I just been trying to do a little homework and taking my time trying to figure out what's best for me, and I see all these numbers, and it's so much to choose from, considering the new technology, and then trying to get something that's kind of old but it works, still give you the same results. So it's pretty daunting for somebody that's on a budget, and then trying to make sure that you're getting the right image quality at the same time.
It is daunting. Well, what subjects do you shoot, and what's your budget?
I usually shoot a lot of landscape. The one reason why I got two cameras is I've been using the Sony for landscape and using the Canon for portrait work.
Mm-hmm.
I used to shoot landscape quite a bit, almost exclusively. Now I'm kind of moving towards portrait work, because I guess some people have been looking at some of my work and have asked me to shoot them. So I'm kind of pushing towards portrait work too. But I still have a big love for landscape, because that's like my first deal there. So I want a little bit of both.
And what's your budget like, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh yes, it's I said maybe about around maybe 25 to maybe 3,000.
Oh, okay. Well,
I
that's
know
a really good budget.
for like the camera body, of course, but I could make exceptions with lenses or whatever, just for the upgrade is concerned.
Yeah, well, you could, and you can kind of think about selling your existing gear on eBay, and you could get a pretty good deal for that too. But for that range, you can get into full frame, which is kind of ideal for both landscapes and portraits. You'll see a big jump in quality when you even go to the entry level full frame bodies. So if you said just landscapes, I might push you to like a Sony A7. But since you got the portrait work in there and the Sony portrait lenses right now, your best options are pretty expensive. I might instead push you towards either a Canon 6D or the Nikon D610, and pair it with one of the 70-200 lenses, and then maybe for the landscapes, a Sigma 24 to 105 f4, which will get you, to the body and the lens. That lens would get you to about $2,000 or so, and then that would leave you some money for a good portrait lens.
Okay.
And you see much better results.
I appreciate it.
And sell that extra gear. Don't
All
keep
right.
it around. Sell that extra gear. Get some cash out of it. Don't leave it collecting dust in your closet.
That's right. I appreciate it, Tom. You guys have a good one.
You
Okay,
too,
you too.
thanks.
You got energy
All
to
right.
take more calls, Chelsea?
Let's do. Are those the last two?
Yeah.
All right, we'll do that.
Okay. I clicked it. Here we go. Hey, caller, you're on the air.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, I'm
no,
talking to you.
No,
It's you. She's screwing with you.
I'm teasing.
Sorry, I'm just driving along the road here. I'm not watching your YouTube show. I really like your shows. They're excellent.
I just want to clarify, you're watching our show while you drive?
No,
He's
I
listening.
can barely drive. I'm just talking to you while I'm driving. Is that like bad?
No, I'm good with talking. I was just curious. I mean, I don't know.
Not in New York City or anything, but no, I really like your show.
Oh, thank you.
And I've been, here's my question. The Sony A6000 is really tempting to buy. I have had Canon DSLRs, kind of like the low end. Actually, the one I think you recommend, like for people on a budget.
Uh-huh.
It all got destroyed, so I'm starting over. My question is if you had a choice between a Canon 70D or a Sony A6000 and everything else was kind of equal, which would you choose? And maybe you need a little more context or something for that.
Yeah, what kind of things do you shoot? Do you photograph? What do you shoot?
Well, I like to travel, and I got back from the country of Chile about 2 weeks ago.
Oh, no kidding.
I'm not some wealthy person, but my son works for the airlines, and
Oh, that's a good
so
deal.
I basically fly for free. I got back. I went to Moscow before that.
Oh.
I like just to walk along the street, take photos of buildings, people, etc. So
That sounds exactly
I
right
think
for the A6000.
A6000.
Yeah, and even better than the A6300 because you don't need like the 4K or the better focusing, and the A6000 you can get pretty inexpensively now. I would hook you up with the if you had the budget for it. I would hook you up with the 18 to 105 f4. It's fantastic. But if not, they're less expensive.
105. Is that the Zeiss one?
I think it might be a Zeiss one. You know what? That one's actually pretty expensive. I think it's close to like $900 or something. But any of the lenses, a big super zoom, like one of those zooms with a big range. They have a couple of them. Pick the one that fits your budget, and it's perfect for travel. It's definitely better than the 70D for travel.
Okay. And like the quality from the Sonys, would that be comparable to the 70D? They seem to have approximately the same sensor. It sounds like it's kind of a matter of the lens, more of a factor of the lens. Would that be true, do you think?
Yeah, the lens definitely makes more of a difference than the sensor, but the sensor in the Sony is actually quite a bit better than the 70D for things like dynamic range, if you're editing your photos.
Really?
But generally, yeah, you're right. It's the lens that makes a bigger difference.
Okay. Do you mind, I go on to, I've actually bought 3 of your books, and I go
awesome. Thank you.
every night. It seemed like, well, yeah, I'm kind of in my camera phase. I kind of was into woodworking. Now I'm into, photography, and I really I like your things because there's kind of a blend of common sense, a blend of beauty, your wife, etc. But you folks know what you're doing.
Oh, thank you.
I hope
We
I'm
try.
not going to get kicked off the show or anything right now. In fact,
No, you're
if
fine.
you consider come out and be a gift for not what to do with the camera. But anyway, where was I going with this? So the Sony A6000 you'd recommend for travel.
Yeah.
You know, taking photos. I've been to Machu Picchu, by the way. Back, I had a Pentax camera. Then I noticed that was in 1985.
Oh, isn't that a
Nobody's
mind-blowing
there,
place?
or-
Yeah, that's crazy
It's
there.
so
Beautiful place.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the zoom lenses, I don't see much about zoom lenses in your book. I actually haven't read the book on the buying guide. I've got the other two.
Yeah, I understand. It's a dense
Great
one.
book for anyone out there thinking about them. But
Thanks.
could you tell me just a teeny bit more about which two lenses to consider with the Sony A6000? I mean, stick with Sony lenses.
Yeah, I especially for things like travel, yeah, I would stick with the Sony lens rather than trying to get all complex with it. My favorite do-it-all lens for the Sony APS-C bodies is the 18-105, and that'll pretty much have you covered. I would say I would also learn how to make a panorama. Oh, I said it was $900. It's only $600, so that's a lot. It's not cheap, but $600, and it's pretty sharp, and it's really versatile, and it's got image stabilization built into it, so it's kind of perfect for travel stuff. And you know, it's on the wide end. You might want to occasionally go wider, and for that, I would suggest learning to make panoramas. That's my go-to technique when I travel. I'd rather have the one lens than have to swap lenses out all the time. But I'll just learn to make a panorama because usually you're not worrying about action or anything, and you can just take your time and take 5 or 6 shots. And I find it easier than having to swap another lens out. But they have a 10-18 f4 if you wanted to go super wide too. But that would run you another $850. So spend $850, carry that second lens around with you, or learn to make a panorama, whichever works better for you.
Okay, but the 18-105, is that like a continuous f4?
Yes.
And I'm pretending like I know what this stuff means, but can you tell me just a little more about it so I'll know what to buy?
Yeah, it's continuous f4.
It's a Sony 18-105. I mean, if I look that up, that should be it, right?
Yep, it's Sony 18-105 f4. It's $600, but you can probably find it used for a little bit less. It's a good all-around lens. I think it's their best all-around lens. It has image stabilization built in, so you can get long handheld shots when it gets a little bit dark. You can go without a tripod sometimes.
Yeah.
I like it. I spent the last
that is the perfect length for me. And you're telling me that lens on a Sony A6000 would be better than the Canon 70D.
I would pick it personally for travel. A 70D would get the job done too. The only downside of the 70D is it's just bulkier.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I was in Oman a year ago with a friend. He had a 60. We were trying to photograph these women wearing burqas. It's not allowed, but actually they really like it when you do it, we found out. And it was just comical. You know, the 60 is just like he was carrying around a little small apartment building taking photos with it. I mean, it wasn't real stealth-like or anything, but kind of comical.
That's a problem too. You'll get too much attention and it'll kind of throw your pictures off.
I think you got pulled over.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks for calling in. Good luck with that.
Hey, thanks a lot. I really enjoy you folks.
Okay,
I enjoy you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah.
Hey, caller, you're on the air.
Am I on the air?
Yes.
What?
Hello?
Hi.
Hello?
It's me?
It's you.
I've been wondering, after all these years, if you would like to speak.
Yeah.
He does.
Okay, hi, Tony Charles.
Hey.
Hi, I have a question that our school next year will take us to Washington, D.C. for the presidential regulation.
Oh, awesome.
And I wanted to take a picture for that.
Mm-hmm.
And I do have a Sony A7R2, and I have 2 lenses with me. And I probably want to rent another one. So I have Tamron 15 230 with Metabones adapter, and Sony native E-mount 55 1.8.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking about renting like a telephoto lens.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any suggestion? Because I want to like take a picture of the president whoever that gonna be from really far away, but still maintain to take picture for my classmate or school's yearbooks.
Yeah, you're right that you're going to want a telephoto lens. That, or you could just rush the president and see how close you could get.
That's
No,
not
don't
a
do
great
that.
advice.
That's poor advice.
It depends on who the president is.
Yeah, Bernie would probably just give him a hug, but Trump would definitely have him kicked out of there.
True.
I'm gonna say if you like there are two lenses to choose from. You have the 7200 f4, which is good, and it's lightweight and it's less expensive, and then you have the upcoming G Master, which we haven't tested but promises to be heavy and expensive.
But it's also like $3,000.
Yeah, we're not sure of the price yet, but yeah, it's we know it's going to be expensive.
Yeah.
Sony doesn't hold back with those prices on the G Master lenses. They might be worth it, but they are expensive.
I don't think the price would be a huge issue because I'm only renting it for like 5 days.
Okay.
Yeah, but if I had a chance to photograph the president,
my-
I would get the G Master definitely.
Okay, I'm considering about would 200 millimeter be enough or that far away?
I don't think so.
Yeah, it's probably not going to be enough. They do have a couple of teleconverters coming out for it too. I mean, you could also pick up as long as you're renting, you could always get a DSLR body or something. But you have 42 megapixels on that A7R2, and the lens promises to be really sharp, so you can always crop it down, to 300 millimeters or more. But yeah, the optical teleconverter can get you closer too.
I want to see your pictures. You can send them to us if you want.
Sure.
Yeah,
sure.
please. And follow up and remind us about this.
I have submitted my picture for your portfolio review a couple of times, and you guys gave me a really good suggestion and advice for my picture.
Oh, good.
And I bought all four of your books.
Oh, good.
And I really enjoyed them.
Oh, thanks so much for all your support.
That's nice for us to hear too, because we've met people that we gave bad feedback to. That's uncomfortable.
It's always a little
That's
awkward.
real.
We have to be honest, but
90 seconds.
Well, it's really helped me when you guys actually live editing them, and I can get a sense like how should I actually improve my post production in the future. That's really helpful.
Oh, good. Well, we're gonna get cut off, but I want to find out who are you hoping to photograph at that inauguration?
Oh, he's gonna put you on the spot.
Who you rooting for?
Probably Bernie Sanders.
60
Bernie Sanders.
He's feeling the burn.
Yeah, I think we all like Sanders here too.
I'm not American citizen. I'm an exchange student, so I cannot actually vote. And Bernie's a lot of policy is really good for immigrants.
Yeah.
That's the reason why I like him. But it doesn't really matter a lot to me. I just want photograph that moment. It's rare to actually go to the inauguration.
Yeah, where are you from?
I've not gotten to do that.
I'm from China.
Oh, okay, cool. We
Awesome.
would love to visit China someday.
Yeah, seems like a fantastic place.
Yeah. You guys should definitely visit China. Oh, also, I saw on the live chat, Charles wants someone sing for her.
Please.
10 seconds.
Well, I can sing a Chinese song for you. That would be really awesome.
You're gonna get cut off in 5 seconds.
All right,
We're
real
afraid
quick
that-
before we get cut
Sing.
off. Sing.
因你在生命里，梦听并心手。因你在生命里，梦听并再分别。
Thank you.
That's done.
That was beautiful.
I think
Yay.
that's done. I'm on live still. Okay.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Okay, guys, we'll end this broadcast. We'll be back live Thursday at 5 o'clock reviewing your pictures, and all this week we'll be pushing out Sony videos. It's like Sony week here. Lots of Sony reviews coming. Full reviews of the A6300, the G Master, lenses, etc. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
How long was that?
That was 2 hours.
Holy moly.